Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain podcast. I am here today with our first ever repeat guest, Dr. Dan Ratner. Welcome back.
What an honor to be the first repeat returner. Obviously, it went okay.
It did. It did. So for people, people who listen to the podcast, I'm sure know, Dr. Dan Ratner is a pain psychologist and a leader in this field. And he is now quite literally a leader in this field, having been newly named the current chair of the board of the ATNS. So congrats on your new role.
Thank you, Sean. It's very exciting. I actually think back to the early days of my recovery, and I connected with some of the leaders of the field then, and I didn't realize how early it was in the process because I was like, well, Dr. Sarno has been doing this for years, but the field really had not developed much, or if it had in any places, it was so disparate that there wasn't a sense of connection. And I remember just thinking, I want to change this. I want to do something in the world. And all these years later, the ATNS didn't even exist when that was going on. And then it existed for a while before I even got involved, but I've been on the board for a number of years now. And it's an amazing organization with amazing people. And we're doing really exciting things. And I'm so excited to be involved.
Cool. And will you just, I'm sure most people who listen to this know what the ATNS is, but in case anyone doesn't, will you just tell us what is that?
So first of all, it's the Association for the Treatment of Neuroplastic Symptoms, which sounds like a mouthful for some people, but I've gotten very used to rolling it off my tongue. We actually renamed it from PPDA, which was the Psychophysiologic Disorders Association. One of the things that I just was talking to somebody about is some of us, myself included, really wanted to get the term disorder out of there because this is actually just the human condition. But, the ATNS is a nonprofit organization that is essentially an advocacy group that is trying to get information out to pain and other symptom sufferers about neuroplastic conditions and the fact that they exist. We're also trying to get it out to physicians and psychologists so that this is just what we really want is for this to become the norm. That this is what people just know. We want to get past the tipping point so that your average person will be like, oh, yeah. I mean, that's neuroplastic. That's not a medical thing. Because it's such a big part of what stands in the way of people getting better is the stigma against it or just the lack of awareness of it. And the more people know about it, the less sufferers are up against.
What a world to imagine, thinking about like your average person just being like, oh, that's probably a neuroplastic symptom. I mean, we're not there yet.
No, we're not there yet. But I'll tell you, we have made huge progress since the days that I recovered. And I would say even as an organization, the ATNS has made huge progress. I mean, we're going to be putting on it'll now be our third in-person conference. I suppose there was one way back when at kind of the beginning of before the ATNS was actually founded. There was an event, I believe it was in Michigan, and I think there were like 20 people. And we had a conference last year that was, I think, over 325 or something like that.
That's right. I was there and it was awesome. And it was huge. I mean, for people listening, my personal favorite part about the ATNS is the yearly conference. I didn't realize that was the second conference. So I went to conference number 2 and I'll be back at number 3.
Yeah. You're an early pioneer and you don't even realize it. That's what you're going to find out.
But both of us are. You more so.
I'm a dinosaur at this. This is amazing. Love that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, give it a couple of years and this will be much more mainstream. But okay. What I'm thinking is, why don't we start? People who listen to this podcast probably know you at least a little bit, and if they listen to the last episode, they know you from there. But will you just sort of, by way of introducing yourself and your position in this field, tell us a little bit about the 3 columns that you have developed for healing chronic pain, just to kind of ground us in what we're talking about, and then we'll go from there. Let's, I want to talk about like your vision for the ATNS, your vision for the field. Like, let's get into all that, but let's just start with like the basics. Talk to us about your columns.
All right. So, one of the reasons I invented my own system is that I had certain needs to get to a place where I could really accept the diagnosis, accept that it was reversible, accept that I could do this. And it required certain things of me. And so I initially built the columns essentially for me. They're a system that came out of what did I need to get better. And you know, the basis of it came from Dr. Sarno. So I'm always very careful to give credit where credit is due. He was amazing, saved my life.
Mm.
But foundationally, these were the two main things that he ended up giving me all three columns without realizing it. But
Mm.
the emotions column came from this idea from Dr. Sarno that our symptoms are often a distraction from emotional life. So I knew that was part of the puzzle. But I also knew it wasn't the whole puzzle because I had just spent 8 years in what I call doubt.
Yeah.
I thought that first I thought I was broken. Then I thought, well, I just can't even figure out what is going on, and there's never going to be a solution, and I'm never going to get better. That's all doubt. And that's thinking based. So I realized, okay, wait, there's feeling and then there's thinking. And I need to know when to use which and when to work on which.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dr. Sarno, he said, you've got to accept the diagnosis to get better. And in mind-body experience, it really is true. It is a condition where it's the human condition, but we all could slip into a deeper condition where if we don't think it is mind-body or neuroplastic, and instead we think it's structural or medical or purely physical, we're not going to be able to get better from it because we're not addressing the right issue. So I realized I've got to work on the thinking too. And that was all about doubt for me.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are big doubters. Some people are less doubters. I actually was just talking to somebody about this, that there are people who are just somaticizers. They experience a lot of their emotional lives through their bodies. I'm one of them. You're one of them, of course.
Same. Yeah. Yeah. With you on that.
But then there are somaticizers who aren't big doubters. And what happens for them is they have somatic experience and they're just having it a lot of the time, but it never lasts. I'm not like that. I'm a doubter. So
same. That's how I got. That's how I got here.
Well,
yeah. And I was gonna say, and you're talking to a lot of doubters too. So
yes.
yeah, here we all are.
This is how seemingly chronic experience happens. You're a somaticizer and you're a doubter. That's when it happens. So I put those two together, and then I got better.
Yeah.
I got better even without the power column. In fact, getting better is what led to the power column.
Yeah.
But it did shed some light on something, and I've realized that I can use the power column in advance for other people. I don't have to wait for them to get better. And I found that it really changed my relationship with myself. Mm-hmm. So the three columns, to make it a little more simple, is basically about feeling, thinking, and relationship with the self, and knowing when to use which for each given moment of mind-body experience. And that system is so organizing for me and also incredibly clarifying that it allows me to access emotions more quickly and clearly. It allows me to bring down doubts and get into the right mindset for getting better faster. And it allows me to have good self-alignment so that symptoms don't need to force me in that direction because I'm already going there. That's the basic gist.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And certainly, what we talk about on this podcast for listeners who are used to hearing me talk about this, exact same thing, slightly different language for the exact same basic thing. And I, everything I talk about on this podcast is synthesized from all the learning I've done and information I've gathered, part of which comes from you. And the three columns, Dan, for listeners, Dan teaches the three columns. One is it's emotions, and then two is doubt, and three is power, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and that's basically the same as what we talk about on this podcast, which is we talk about healing psychologically, which is the thinking part, the doubt part, healing emotionally, which is the feeling part. And then we talk about healing through patiently attuning to your true self, which self-alignment, power. And the thing that's nice about that is listeners can know that it's the same thing. if people are stressed, like, what do I do? It's like, it's the same thing.
It is the same thing, and actually, I find that in the mind body field, uh, and I really found this at the conference. It's such a joy. We're all saying very similar things,
Yes.
and the more we can sync up about that, the more organized it's going to be for other people. I also say about the columns, I didn't invent the columns. I actually feel like that's just what I see in terms of how human beings are.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, it's more of a
describe it.
discovery than an invention, I would say.
Yeah,
But yeah, go ahead.
or an organization of how we are. There's many ways to organize. But I found that this was very helpful for me, and it's been very helpful for a lot of people. And I hear this a lot, that they feel like, I think this is true for everybody. Everybody's got their particular window into the mind body field that made it click.
Mhm. Yeah.
Use it. Great.
Yeah.
For all it's worth. But if you're having trouble finding how they all fit together, or your particular point that gets it to click, the columns can be particularly helpful with that.
Love it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very organizing and very holistic. It's like it's all falls under the three umbrellas, and that's awesome. But okay, let's yeah, since this is like a fresh new announcement, let's talk about the ATNS and your new leadership role. Like, talk to us. What's going on?
Oh man, I don't even know where to start. I mean, the interesting thing is, like, and I think anybody on the ATNS board will tell you this, and certainly Dave Clark will be, as the president and executive director. Um, we just have so much to do. I mean, there's so much that we need to do to get this message out to people and to think about how to do it. So, I mean, I can go in any direction, Sean. We might need to explore which ones you want to go into, but I mean, as an example, there are lots of different names for mind body experience or neuroplastic experience. I mean, I even had to say two just there.
Right.
Dr. Sarno
Right.
called it TMS, which I'm
CMS,
still
of
very
course.
fond
Yeah.
of, because that was the
Mhm.
one that got me better thinking about it
Mhm.
that way. But we have to decide on a kind of more centralized language of
Mhm.
what are we talking about. Here's another great example of that. There are some people who say it's all about a danger response and bringing down danger. Then there's other people who will say it's all about the emotions. You've got to get at what the emotions are and expose that. Or it's all about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and you've got to talk about trauma.
Yeah.
And what I think we need to do in part is get our messaging really straight so that everybody can use it and
Yeah.
everybody's kind of talking about the same things. That's one of the central components of what we're working on.
Well, let me just say, that's one of the reasons I really like your column system, is because it covers all the base. It covered, like, you're talking about, like, is it about the emotions, or is it about a danger signal? Like, it can be about all of the above. So I mean, it's nice to have a way to bring it all together. But how do you do that simply? I don't know. Good luck.
Yeah, yes. Well, that's the feeling that I often have in the work. Oh, good luck. But you know, we have to believe we can do it. And
Yeah, I love that.
included in that is, we've got so many different areas that we have to work on. For example, we are really hoping to start a program to train physicians so that there are
Awesome.
more doctors that know about this. I was just
Yeah.
talking about this with Dave Clark on the ATNS webinar that we had last night. Um, there are so many doctors that almost every doctor doesn't really know about this experience. Even if they know about it kind of in theory, they don't know the details of it. And what ends up happening is sufferers go to doctors, um, as they should, to make sure there's nothing medical going on.
Mhm.
And yet then they show up and the doctor doesn't have, as part of their differential diagnosis, neuroplastic symptoms.
Right.
And that leads to tests and confusion and trying to label something in some way. So training physicians is one of our initiatives that we're
Well,
really
I
looking.
love that, because I'm also thinking, like, depending on the doctor and the doctor's role, they may see 10% of their patients are neuroplastic cases, 95% of their patients might be neuroplastic cases, and they might not even know it exists. So,
No, right.
yeah.
And so, one of the things, I give credit to Dave Clark for so many things, but one of those things is he often talks about things in this particular way that can help people, which is like the efforts we're trying to make to get people to see what's going on and have the resources they need and the treatments they need for neuroplastic symptoms. It's like if people who had diabetes didn't know insulin existed.
Yeah.
It's that dire.
Yeah.
You know, I suppose you could say, well, if a diabetic doesn't get insulin, it's more life or death in a more intense and upfront sort of way. But
Right. The good news is you're not going to die of TMS. Like, that's good.
no,
However, it's going to hurt you really bad for a
it
long
will
time.
wreck your life until you get it,
Yeah.
until you get it set. So, and there are
Yeah.
1.5 billion pain sufferers in the world,
Yeah.
and that's just the people who are reporting it, and that's not even including other symptoms.
There we go.
So
Yeah.
and it's not just the physicians that we have to educate about this.
Yeah.
As a psychologist, I can say that I had a lot of discomfort initially wading into a situation that is at least in part physical, because I'm not a medical doctor. So a lot of psychologists will think, well, that's not my area. That's just, I can help you, I can empathize with you about your pain, but I don't think that I can take away your pain. But
Right.
when I sit down with Dave Clark or Howard Schubiner or, some of the great mind-body doctors in the field, we sometimes laugh together about the fact that, like, I wouldn't say I'm half a doctor, but I'm kind of there, and they're like half a psychologist, because we have to do that. So getting the training out there so that there's more people who are really, really qualified to do these things is so important, because the sheer number of people who need the help versus the number that can actually give it, our ratios are just in the world are just way off. There's a lot of educating that needs to happen. Now, here's another thing that we've got to work on with the ATNS. As I'm talking about this, I'm like, oh my God, Sean, how are we going to do this? but another thing that we have to work on is what's going to be the messaging to the average person, and how do we get it out there to the media? Mm-hmm. And when we get it out there, how do we get it out there in ways where we're not interpreted as, oh, they're saying a bunch of voodoo kind of stuff.
Right.
And the good news is, I think the ATNS does a really good job, and a lot of this is because of Dave Clark. We stick to very scientific principles. Mm-hmm. We rely on the studies, because if we don't, pseudoscience is not going to get us anywhere.
Right. Yes.
We have to actually be scientific. There will be people who will say, "Oh, you're not being scientific," but that's not true.
Of course,
that's not true.
Right.
If they're willing to actually have a discussion with us and look at it, they're going to see we are being scientific and that we're really onto something. So
those same people would see a bunch of failed back surgeries, even studies where it's like whatever majority percent of back surgeries fail, and be like, well, that's science. It's based off of vibes. It's not based off of science.
That's right.
Our work is actually based off of science.
Yeah, and actually, that's really important to note. I mean, we're really quite committed to that. There's so many different initiatives that we have going on. We're connecting with people internationally as well, because we don't want to just be a silo in America that's doing this work, when there's great work being done internationally on this. And the more synced up it is, the more powerful we all become together. So that's kind of maybe part of the tip of the iceberg about all the things that we got to work on.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, right, like you got your work cut out for you. And it's so important. And I mean, I guess one thing that's standing out to me as you're talking is it's making me think, like, how many people are really passionate about this. Like, so many people who recover, they want to tell their stories, and they want to be, they want to share it with everyone, and they feel people don't listen to them. So certainly, obviously we know we're not alone in wanting to spread this message. But let me ask you about this, the messaging. Like, what words do you use to get this across? What are, like, I don't know, because that is a challenge. I have my way of doing it. It lands with some people. It certainly does not land with everyone. What kind of ideas are you all throwing around? Like, what feels like works? You know what I mean? Like, what's the messaging?
Well, great question. I will try to answer it, though. This is a longer conversation in general, and we'll see how long we spend on it today. But I mean, first of all, the term neuroplastic is a term that we kind of settled on as a really nice combination point of many different perspectives.
I
So
like
our
it.
board has all these different people who talk about it in the way they talk about it, just like you said. I have my way of talking about it. Howard Schubiner has his way of talking about it. Becca Kennedy has her way of talking about it, et cetera, et cetera. Even patient advocates, they have their way of talking about it.
Mhm.
And so we had to put our heads together about like, well, what terms work? Psychophysiologic, we started to feel like it's a little too jargony. It's funny
Yeah.
to say that because neuroplastics, some people could think that's too jargony.
Yeah.
But psychophysiologic, we thought had some downsides to it. Even the fact that the word psycho is in there.
I was gonna, yeah,
Well, yeah,
psycho's not great.
although
Yeah.
I am a psychologist. Um,
That's right.
so even just the term neuroplastic, we had to kick around. What were the advantages and the disadvantages? Why did we want to focus on that? And part of it is that it felt connected to science and medicine while still being accurate. It tied in the concept of the brain having a
Mhm.
big role here. And I think all of us on the board came to, you know, there were varying disagreements that are still going on as we kick around the language because now we're starting to develop a new website. We got to figure out what's going to be all
Cool.
the language on that.
Right.
Um, so it's a work in process. I will tell you that. But the term neuroplastic we settled on for multiple reasons, and a huge part of it was linking the idea that the brain affects the body because that that changes it hopefully from people feeling that it's in their head or made up. This is very, very real. This is
Right.
happening in the brain and it's happening in the body. So we're trying to establish that link. And to me, that's a huge part of the language is to help people see one, this is the human condition.
Mhm.
Two, it is a link between the brain or mind, however you want to talk about that, and the body. And it's very, very real.
Mhm.
And of course, then we want to bring in not only everyday experience, but we want to highlight the wide range of symptoms that can come up from this. So,
Mhm.
how does it get talked about is a very central part of the ATNS's mission right now. And especially because we're building the website, you know, what are people going to see when they land there? Everybody knows this. We have a pretty short attention span these days compared to what we
Mhm.
used to anyway. Or maybe we always did, but it's just showing up in a different way. We've got to help people see I can relate to this. I mean, a
Mhm.
huge part of it is helping people be able to see themselves in it instead of that's for other people. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Right. Right. Well, I mean, totally. So many people who I just in my personal life share this with have exactly that reaction. Like, oh, interesting. Maybe that applies to me, but it definitely applies to like this person, that person. And, oh, I think like there's a lot of that.
Mhm.
I will say that something that has surprised me over the past couple months. I have been a guest on some other podcasts, like other therapist podcasts. And I have gotten into that like a little scared, thinking like, the things that I'm about to talk about, I'm there to talk about chronic pain and healing from chronic pain and neuroplastic symptoms and TMS. Like that's what I'm there to talk about. And I fully recognize that a lot of people think that's crazy or think that's pseudoscience, or at the very least, they've never heard of it. And so they're going to be skeptical. Um, which is probably most people have just not really heard of it, and so they're just naturally skeptical. Uh, I have been pleasantly surprised, in having these interviews with different therapists that people have been more receptive than I expected. Like, I really expected maybe some of them would be like, "I can't publish this interview because this seems fake," or like, Send me some studies." But people have been surprisingly receptive, so that's a good omen, I feel.
Yeah, I think people are getting much more open about it. This is another thing that I think is, in a way, part of the ATNS mission right now is to help people feel encouraged. This is actually going well. We're
Cool, yeah.
early in the movement, but it
Yeah.
is going well.
Yeah.
You see articles in major newspapers and things like that talking about this now. It's on the docket now, and that's a big advance. We're even starting to talk about how do we start to interface with the federal government about this. Like
Mm.
how this is in the very early process of this, but we're going to be looking at is there a way to talk to people in the federal government and help make some changes because the ATNS does not have limited vision about where we need to go with this. Like getting to a place where insurance companies reimburse for these kinds of treatments,
Mhm.
that's a huge part of it too.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
long ago, Dr. Sarno actually did present to Congress about these
I
things.
saw that in the documentary. What is that documentary? Do you know?
That's in all the rage, I think,
There we
if I'm
go.
recalling correctly. Yeah, and he did a great job in the hearing, and
Mhm.
I don't know what people heard of it, but it's or how they responded to it, but it didn't. It he couldn't get the traction at that time, and
Yeah.
when I think about it, I'm like, wow, he was so brave in so many ways, but
Yeah.
wow, he was doing this at a time when nobody was talking about this.
Right, and he got the foot in the door. For people who haven't seen it, he got the foot in the door because a senator or a House representative, there was some politician who had recovered from, I believe, back pain, from some kind of, chronic pain, using Dr. Sarno's methods and reading the book, and I think the whoever it was saw him, in his office in New York, and that's how he got his foot in the door, and so it was him and this politician both together presenting, like, "This is a big deal."
Yeah, yeah, I think it was Tom Harkin,
Oh,
I think from Iowa. He yeah, I mean, and, that brings up an interesting point, Sean, that, like, the more people who get better from this, the more believable it's gonna be for people,
yes.
we're not just using the science and the logic, though that is incredibly important, but we're showing it's true.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
for my own family, as an example,
Mm.
it was hard for them to deny what they had
Mhm,
just seen. Now,
mhm.
it is pretty easy for people to be like, "Well, yeah, you're a weird creature that had
Right,
that
right,
happen."
right. So, like, "Oh, Sean needed this, but,
Right,
like,
right, but
I'm
not
different."
anybody else.
Yeah.
And yet they couldn't deny the results.
Yeah,
All we have
yeah.
to do is cross that bridge to be able to help them see, "No, that's you also. It's not
Mhm,
just them. It's
mhm,
all of you."
mhm. It really is notable when, like, I think of, like, especially friends I've had for a long time and family members when they see me eating stuff that I would have treated like the plague, back, like, several years ago. It still is kinda like, "Oh, wow. You just ate a piece of bread?" Or whatever it would be. I'll be like, "Yeah." Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy?
I mean, I find that it's very interesting to me to see how people see what happens and sometimes turn aside the data. Like it's
Yeah.
data. I mean, I run a basketball league. I play full court basketball twice a week,
Mhm.
uh, for probably like 2.5 hours each time,
Alright.
and I'm over 50 years old. And
That's
I play
amazing.
with people in the league who are in their 30s, and they're talking about having degenerative knees, and they're
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
way too much, and
Yep.
they're out injured all the time. I can be out occasionally, usually with a mind body symptom if I am.
Sure. Right.
Um, but
Happens.
they don't really wonder about it. They say things to themselves like, "Yeah, I just have this degenerative knee thing." And I'm like, "Well, what do you think I am? Like, I'm 17 years older than you." Like,
Right. Right, and more active, less injury prone, like, not yeah, exactly. I mean,
yeah,
honestly, I really I know one of Dr. Sarno's lines was denial of the syndrome is part of the syndrome,
yeah.
especially when it comes to the, fact that so much of this can be about repressed emotions, and I just think that is very true. Denial of the syndrome is part of the syndrome. It protects us, you know?
It is, and, I believe I got this from him also, but as we look at the different psychological defenses, there's certain psychological defenses that are rarely used anymore because they've been exposed. We talk about them so much in society, they're just not used, even the concept of denial.
Yeah,
The only way denial gets past us anymore is if we're not seeing it,
yeah,
and we're seeing it a lot more than we used to, seeing it meaning recognizing it. So it's actually happening a lot less. But where is it happening? It's happening in areas like neuroplastic experience. because there is plausible deniability for all of those people to be like, yeah, that's not a thing.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
denial can rest there. It can't rest a lot of other places.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, let's get into this, because last time that you came on this podcast, we had a conversation about what because you've had years of experience doing this, helping people with this, treating people with this, training people in, teaching this stuff and working with their own patients. Last time you came on, we talked about, like, what are some of the symptoms that you've seen resolve with this work that would be considered, like, not the classic TMS, like back pain, knee pain, IBS, like sort of the, like, the mainstream, everybody can know this is a TMS condition if you know about TMS. Um, I'm thinking of, like, autoimmune diseases or places where, like, we can recognize, like, yeah, there's neuroplastic stuff going on here, but there's also people, you hear, like, that's gray area. I don't know, maybe sort of yes, sort of no. And I asked you that question, and you were like, "There's so much to talk about here, so let's go deeper."
Okay.
Talk to us about that,
All right.
because people have that question. They're like, "Does this apply to me or not?" Some of my symptoms are weird, so
Yeah,
yeah.
well, let me start with I'm gonna start with an easier part, and then we'll get into autoimmune stuff. So, first of all, there are all kinds of symptoms that people just don't think of as being mind-body symptoms, and so they wouldn't think to treat it in these ways, and I'll just list a couple, like eczema. This is
Mm,
this is a it's a skin condition. It's really happening in the skin, and you can have eczema for other reasons potentially, but, I have actually gotten rid of eczema, not myself, because I haven't had it, but I have gotten rid of eczema in other people
mhm,
through mind-body methods. I've gotten rid of, blurry vision, or dry eyes. I've helped people get rid of, weird taste sensations.
mm, mhm,
I've had people, work on itchiness, like
mhm,
full body itchiness, or maybe
mhm,
in certain locations.
mhm,
I've had people get rid of foggy brain,
mhm.
where they're convinced it is because of mold or chronic Lyme or all the these reasons that people can sometimes worry about.
Right.
So there is a group of conditions that people just don't think of. Seasonal allergies is another one, by the way. Which isn't to say that any of these don't ever exist for medical reasons. I'm not saying that, but they are worth considering.
Mhm,
A funny story, actually. I helped my brother at one point get better from months of back pain,
mm.
and I got him better in a couple weeks, as we talked about it. And 2 weeks later, he calls me up and he tells me he's not lactose intolerant anymore.
There we go.
Now, I will say, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that lactose intolerance doesn't exist. It just means that a huge proportion of people or likely means that a huge proportion of people who think they're lactose intolerant really aren't and are having a
Yeah,
mind-body experience.
yeah.
So there's those ranges. The autoimmune stuff. I'm going to start with the ACE study, which I know you're familiar with, and
Mhm.
I'm sure your viewers are as well, or at least a
Yeah.
lot of.
Well, you can just give a little,
I'll give the
basics. Yeah.
overview. So, I believe the study was done in 1999, but it has been replicated in various ways, and it was a really robust study. It was like 17,000 or more people, that Kaiser Permanente, interviewed about adverse childhood experiences, and these were defined as, things like, sexual abuse, physical abuse, even emotional abuse, any kind of abuse
Mhm.
in the home,
Yeah.
especially.
Incarcerated parent is one of them, I
Incarcerated
know.
parent, yep, death of a parent is
Yeah.
another, but, it's interesting because this doesn't even apply to so many other adverse childhood experiences.
Right.
It's not like they said,
Right.
like, "Did you have a serious emotional traumatic event?"
Right.
Like,
Right.
it did fit in a lot of different categories, but not all of them. So this
Mhm.
this is not even limited to what we actually see, but what they found is that people who had adverse childhood experiences, even one of them out of the 9 that they listed, had a significantly elevated chance of some major, major conditions.
Yeah.
And these included autoimmune conditions, including cancer, heart disease, diabetes. I mean, this is big, big stuff.
Mhm.
So I'll say this because, you know, I'm this way, the ATNS is this way. We're scientific. We're not saying we know what all of that means or we definitively know that autoimmune issues are neuroplastic.
Mhm.
I think we hope that there will be some more research done on it, and maybe that we'll even be part of that. But I also think that, you know, we can't deny this study and all of the studies around it that
Mhm.
support this information. And it just opens the question as to what do we do about this? We got a question on the ATNS webinar last night about you know, Hashimoto's. Um, Hashimoto's,
Barely.
it's an autoimmune issue that affects the thyroid.
Okay.
And there was a question as to whether this is neuroplastic or mind body or not.
Mhm.
And I, of course, let Dave Clark answer that question because he's a medical doctor, so he would know better than me.
Mhm.
But what he said really did align with some, at least some of how I think about it. I think I may be even more optimistic about how far things can go in a certain way. But part of the reason that I do think that there's evidence that something like Hashimoto's and other autoimmune issues can be driven by mind body experience is I know personally the people I know who have autoimmune conditions, typically a lot of them have really unprocessed emotional trauma. I just
Mhm.
see it.
Mhm.
And whereas some other people, especially who didn't have much trauma in childhood, don't tend to have those as much. So it's a
Mhm.
correlation. We don't know that it's
Mhm.
causal, but it's a strong correlation.
Mhm.
And we need
Mhm.
to look at it. Then there's the question of, okay, well, what do you do about that? And I do want to be very clear about this. I'm not a medical doctor. And if you have any kind of serious medical condition, which autoimmune conditions are, it does need to be treated medically.
Mhm.
And so I'm all for that. What we may find, though, is that neuroplastic understanding could help us in a lot of ways. First of
Mhm.
all, it could end up being very preventative.
Mhm.
If I don't know, but if we, it's a very good lead, I think, that if we start to help people understand that emotional health is physical health,
Yeah.
that could potentially prevent a lot of autoimmune responses and other things that are expressing all of this distress in the body from happening. So
Mhm.
prevention would be a major area we could make gains in.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Dave Clark himself said we don't know. It's possible that treating these things in a mind body way as well as the medical could really help to reduce these things.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Now, I do also, I'll bring in a third category, which is autoimmune issues can do real damage to tissue.
Right.
A good example of that is my wife is a type 1 diabetic. Uh,
Mm.
I do believe that she had a mind body autoimmune attack,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
her pancreas, the functionality is no longer there.
Yeah.
And so no amount of mind body experience is going to bring back her pancreas to
Yeah.
functioning. We need a medical solution to that. Hopefully they will find that. And I believe that they will. But when it comes to these things, this is another area where medicine and the neuroplastic movement needs to come together and know where do things apply and how do we work on
Mm.
this?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that totally makes sense. Uh, for listeners to this podcast, we had somebody come on. Her name was Skylar, and she had a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis from childhood, and she went to Ellen Ronka, mind body therapist. For now, I forget. People can go back and listen to that episode if they want to hear this full story. But she went to Ellen Ronka for some other symptom imperative, some pain symptom, and happened to mention like, "Oh, I also have rheumatoid arthritis, and I've had that since childhood." And Ellen, in the initial consultation, just said basically exactly what you're saying. Ellen Ronka said some version of like, you know, I can't make any promises about that, but just remain open because this process of like doing emotional and psychological healing, this may very well help you significantly with the RA. And lo and behold, it did. And Skylar is now like at the time, she's like going down on her medication. Her rheumatologist was like, maybe you're entering remission. Maybe someday you won't need medication. Like she was really, it was not like my RA is completely gone, but it was like my flares have decreased significantly. My experience is totally different. So there are stories, certainly, and she's not the only one. I know like Nicole Sachs has interviewed a bunch of people
Mhm.
who have, in that same way, their flares from their autoimmune conditions have gone down. So very hopeful, very hopeful.
Yeah, and I mean, I've treated people for, like, ulcerative colitis. Obviously, they're consulting with their doctors, a lot of times they're taking medicines that they need to take, but we can use neuroplastic mind-body experience to bring down a lot of symptoms, and I I remember just the joy of those moments when it's like, "Wow, this goes that far?"
Yeah.
And I think staying open to it while being, medically prudent is the great combination.
Yeah. Yeah. That totally makes sense. What advice would you have to somebody who's listening to this? They're listening to our conversation and they are in this place, like maybe they have rheumatoid arthritis, maybe they have, some a condition that feels to them like gray area.
Mhm.
And they're approaching this conversation like, will this help me? Please tell me. How would you answer that question?
Okay, I'm gonna try, but I'll say
Yeah.
this, like, you and I should keep having a discussion about it, and each of them that's listening should have a discussion with me or you or somebody. Keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
The primary thing I would say is don't lose hope because, I mean, I have found really, like, incredible recovery stories all over the place, including my own,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, if that's possible, then other things are possible, and so
Absolutely.
staying open to it is the key. I mean, we
Mhm.
don't wanna be blindly open to it where we're ignoring the medical treatments that need to happen, but beyond that, let's be really open to it because
Mhm.
a lot of things can change. I'll also say, I love that there are these great medical doctors in the mind-body field who can consult with people about it. A great example of that is Andrea Leonard Siegel is the best rheumatologist in the mind-body field. Um, Not to say there aren't other great ones out there, but she's one that I know about, and she trained with Dr. Sarno. She's got a chapter in The Divided Mind. I've talked to her directly, and you can just remember that where you derive your hope or your lack of hope really depends on who you're talking to, and make
Yeah.
sure you're talking to the right people.
Yeah.
Don't
Yes.
don't take hopelessness for an answer. If somebody's telling
Yeah.
you something's hopeless, we might as well find a different viewpoint.
Agreed, agreed, and I mean, that brings me back to what you just said. That was such a good line, mental health is physical health. That is so true. That would be a good ATNS grab for a for a website banner or
Maybe.
something. That's a good one.
Noted.
Be I'm thinking, if you're going to a doctor or you're part of whatever medical process that is telling you, like, "You're never gonna get better, we just have to manage this," uh maybe that's true, but the thing is, maybe it's not, and maybe a message of hope in the way that mental health is physical health, maybe a message of hope would actually translate into calming down your nervous system and healing your symptoms.
Mhm.
So, like, yes, people listening, like, try it on, try it on.
I mean, I also will say, this may be aside from, like, really aggressive autoimmune experience, which, again, I'm not a medical doctor. Let's
Mhm.
rely on the doctors for that, but I think the percentage of people who can be helped by this is way higher than people think. I will also say that
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
I don't know what it's gonna be, but we're just discovering this, and we
yeah,
we need to find out more, and I think staying open and optimistic about it is a great thing.
mhm. I used to think that, like, I mean, people might know that do you know Louise Hay and her book, You Can Heal is it You Can Heal Yourself?
I can't
I
remember
never
what the
read the
title is,
book.
but I know Louise Hay, and
Okay.
I know, like, how she talks about metaphors and what they mean.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Louise Hay, was like decades ago, cured her own cancer through like positive thinking and basically through neuroplasticity would be a way to
Mhm.
she was, and there was a lot of emotional trauma in her past, and she was like, if I can hold on to it and that can turn into cancer in my body, I can also let it go. And then my cancer will go away.
Mhm.
And that really did happen. And
Mhm.
Louise Hay's book when I was younger, I thought was like totally insane. Before I understood neuroplasticity and TMS, I was like, "That's crazy." And some other things like and I will say now that makes sense to me. Not that you hear about people curing cancer with this every day. That is a rare situation, and yet it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. There are other, I'm thinking about a kid who I went to Catholic elementary school with who was very allergic to peanuts. It was the kind of situation where it's like no peanuts in the classroom, no peanuts in the school, peanut free zone. And then all these people prayed over him at some like Catholic sort of honestly probably kind of culty in my opinion event. And he got his peanut allergy was gone, and it was like famously at St. Mark's it was like his peanut allergy it was a miracle, like this was a miracle that happened in our school. And now I'm like, that was probably a neuroplastic condition
Mhm.
and a neuroplastic healing. But yeah, any thoughts you have about either of those
Well,
things?
I mean, one thing I'll say is like one way to tease this out is like, is it life or death or not? Like people can have anaphylactic shock, and you don't want to mess with that at all.
Right, right.
So I would not encourage people to go experimenting with those things if it was like, I mean, if the peanut allergy, let's say, if it's potentially lethal, let's not experiment with that so much.
Right.
But if it's something where, you have, like, some, itching and things like that, okay, we actually can experiment with that, and
Right.
I actually hope that we can do studies. I've talked to, I don't know if you know Yoni Ashar, but,
Yeah, yeah.
he's a great guy and a great researcher in the mind-body field. He was part of the Boulder back pain study, a major part of it, the main researcher in it, and, I talked to him about, like, doing an experiment about allergies to see that, non-life or death allergies, that a lot of times we can get past some of these things that we didn't think we could, where there really are what I would call like a doubt trigger, where
Yeah.
you are expecting a certain thing and it happens. But when you change it, it changes. Just like my brother's lactose intolerance changed when he ran a different experiment.
Yeah.
He was like, "Well,
Yeah.
what if I'm thinking about this differently when I have the cheese or the milk or whatever?" And it changed it.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And I'm just thinking, for people listening as we're wrapping up this part of the conversation, like Dan and I right now are talking about kind of like the edge of our understanding. Like, is this possible? Maybe, maybe not. Something that listeners can definitely walk away from with confidence is like there is a core of evidence that so many symptoms are neuroplastic. So even though there's question marks that we are addressing right now, um, you can still walk away from this conversation, listeners, confident that like there's a core of symptoms that like we're not questioning. Those
Yeah,
are for sure.
yeah, actually, that's a great point. There are many, many symptoms we can rule in, that
Right,
we know. That's
right,
so neuroplastic. And
right.
there's actually a book which unfortunately I'm blanking on the name of, but Dave Clark and some other people at the ATNS, they put out a book that is essentially a list of the rule-ins. It's like this
Right,
is the stuff that is neuroplastic.
right.
We should pull up the name of that. I
No, I have
really
the
should.
book. I literally have the book. It's like on my bookshelf. I don't know what it's called, but I have the book.
I'll see if I can
It's like
look it
sort
up
of a
while we're talking.
diagnostic thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
can look it up.
yeah.
Well, here also, I know you've got to go in a minute, so we can wind down. Um, where can people find you? I mean, also, I believe your audiobook is coming out and your book has come out. So tell us, where can people find you?
Okay, so first of all, my book, yeah, it came out last January actually, but it is available on Amazon, and it's a really, really comprehensive orientation to my whole system, but also just to like the whole mind body experience. I talk about it all. The audiobook I'm hoping will come out in the next couple months. I have to say I took a break from it for various reasons. One of them being I did not realize how hard it was going to be to read it because
Hey, bad.
first of all, I'm very aware that the people who are reading my works and thinking about what I'm saying are doubters. So I'm
Of course.
thinking, well, I got to figure out writing the book. I had to think about every word. But reading the book, I was like, I mean, I'm a perfectionist. I was like, I didn't say that with the right cadence.
Yeah.
The pauses aren't good enough yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm at a point, and actually there were times where I would read a sentence and I'd be like, who wrote this sentence? Because it was too long or it had all these medical words in it. And I was like, oh my God. But I will say I'm done with the reading. I've actually read it all the way through.
Okay.
We are now working on the chapters to get the pauses exactly right. And once that's done, it'll be out. And so I'm hoping that will be in the next 3 or 4 months.
Awesome. I can't wait because I'm a huge audiobook person, and you know that I will be listening to the entire thing cover to cover. So can't wait.
That's great. And meanwhile, my website, www.crushingdoubt.com, is the place you can find all of my other resources, including groups where you can work directly with me, these great Zoom calls, and the communities that we're building are really amazing there. So,
Awesome.
but reach out to me as needed. You can find me through the website. You can even send an email to, I have an assistant now, so you can send an email to
Cool.
Shelby@crushingdoubt.com, and she will help you sort through how to connect with me further.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, anything else to any final words to tell us before we're done?
I just really appreciate you, Sean, and I appreciate people like you being out there so that we're not all doing this alone. We're in this together, and you're doing great work. And it's funny. I was just talking to somebody about this, that sometimes recovery can actually feel a little bit lonely because you enter a world where other people don't really understand it, but there's a whole other world of people who do understand it, like
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
where I can talk to you about things that I can't talk to some of my best friends about. And I feel
Yeah.
in some ways closer to you because of it. And
Yeah.
so I'm just really grateful. And thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So I'm so grateful for you as well. Right back at you. And thank you for your leadership and all the information that you put out. And thank you for coming on the podcast. This has been awesome.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. And for everybody listening, this has been Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain. And I will talk to you next week. If you're looking for a therapist, you found one. And you can decide. Does my vibe resonate with you? Therapy is an opportunity. Therapy is an opportunity to tune into you, to learn to feel more comfortable being yourself, to feel more comfortable with your emotions, and to feel more comfortable existing in the world in your body. Do you have difficulties in your life? Maybe it's chronic pain, maybe it's something else. Maybe you want to become a person who likes yourself. Do you want a therapist to help you? And would you like me to get to know you and to help you? That is actually an option. You can find me at SeanHershey.com or MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com. Both go to the same place, and if you're looking for me, I'd welcome a message from you. SeanHershey.com, MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com, and you can request a free consultation.